as well. I don't know where to start. Okay, let's start off on the election as well. The arguably most senior man in the private sector in the US oil industry said to me, we've had a great relationship with the Biden administration. We have no problem whatsoever with the Democrats as well. This old, hackneyed view that Republicans good for oil production, Democrats bad for oil production, it just doesn't work, does it?
Well, I think if somebody came down from Mars and looked at the path of U.S. oil and gas production over the last 15 years, you probably couldn't tell whether a Democrat or a Republican were in office. As Dan was just saying, we've gone from 5 to 13.5 million barrels a day, largest LNG exporter. There is an important difference between the two parties in where we should be in a decade or longer. And so trying to take very strong policy actions that change the demand trajectory, bring down demand for oil over time, which is what we need to do not just for energy security, but for climate change, and trying to think about decisions today that may affect production in the longer term, investment in pipelines, offshore leasing. Those aren't things that affect production today, but can have an effect further out. And there are differences between the two parties there, because one is thinking much more about climate change, I think, than the other.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? Although, again, I'll go back into history and my COP history. Having asked the question ad infinitum to, again, senior men and women in the US oil industry or energy industry, they say it's not just about what happens at a federal level. It's about what happens at a state level. It's what happens at a corporate level. It's what happens in individual choices. I know there can be a push from the state, from the federal government to make it easier to do X, Y, Z. But it ain't all done and dusted against the energy transition if Trump is the next president, is it?
Well, especially on the supply side, on the production side, as you rightly point out, in the U.S. in particular, most of this production is happening on private land. Most of it is affected by state policy, pipelines and infrastructure, often more state than federal. Some of it is federal with, some public lands, but most of the U.S. production is on private lands. On the demand side, right, are we going to see, not again in the near term, but in the medium to long term, are we going to see demand for oil and gas continue to rise, or is it going to come down over time? If you have a stronger set of policies to encourage electric vehicles, to put stronger fuel efficiency standards out there, you're going to bring that demand over time down. And that is at the federal level.
Which is fascinating because, again, the most extraordinary person in this election isn't Trump. It's not Harris. It's Musk. For me, who's the most interesting person who's just gone full throttle into this? It's Musk. And yet, say whatever we like about him, and we'll say a lot of things, because most of them are true, good or bad. He's an extraordinary character, very enigmatic, what have you. Fact of the matter is, he's the greatest champion for EV the US has got.
Well, look, what he did with Tesla is extraordinary and has changed the outlook for electrification for sure. There's a lot of things about how he's engaging in our democratic process now that understandably raise a lot of concerns. But the outlook for electric vehicles, he did something pretty remarkable. And electric vehicle sales are growing globally. I mean, and people recognize that that's not just about air pollution, air standards, climate change, but also about energy security, oil security. If you're less dependent on globally traded hydrocarbons and there's conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else, you might be a little less concerned about the possibility that prices would spike. The U.S. is, quote, energy independent. We're a net exporter now. But of course, the U.S. still cares deeply about whether Israel goes after infrastructure related to oil in Iran because it's a global market. And you're still going to see prices go up at the pump, economic impacts, impact on consumers, political impacts, if there's a problem in the global market. The best way to deal with that is not just produce more, but use less in the first place. And that also happens to be what we have to do for climate change.
Yeah.